Hello, 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 friends. Nicholas here with DIVO TED Talks, Devoted Talks, whatever you want to call it, where we take ancient wisdom and practices through a modern lens and experience so we can help you and those you love and suffering in your personal and greater worlds. And so I said this would be kind of a three-parter because there was just so much content today alone between two of my three sessions today. Even then, one of them, there was content, but my client and I bumped up against each other with um, our differences in the way we see the world. And it's a good thing. He and I are really good. We can speak and see eye to eye. He just doesn't understand or see the world in the same way as me. But I think a lot of that has to do with one, growing up gay and living in the world as a gay man. I see things differently than a straight cis man, even if they have gay children or non-binary children might be able to see. And I don't say that in judgment at all. I just show that as an example. I'm used to living in the world and seeing it differently than most, if not all, people that I come across in some way or another. And so one of the things we were talking about was with one of my clients today was when you're in conflict with family or friends and it's not resolvable and you're still living in the past and really replaying these things, you know it was posited, well, I just have to surrender and let them go and cut them out and get rid of them. And I was like, I don't think that that's the answer. I think that the answer actually always has been that we have to recognize why we expect the things we do from people and why we are thinking that things should happen a certain way when we do something. And so part of it, came back to control, which was a whole nother conversation, right? But why do we seek control? I know I personally seek control because I find worthiness in being right sometimes. I find, identity in being right. Like I say, I'm right 98% of the time. And so controlling things helps me feel like I have more of a grasp on things, right? Being able to plan and being able to, predict what is going to happen or what might happen. Um, Feels more within my grasp and feels more attainable when I'm controlling things. Now, I don't actually sit and feel a certain way. Like I don't sit and stew and I don't think about it, but I low key do try to control a lot of things. I have a lot of subconscious programs that run that try to effectuate what I want to happen or what I think should happen, or I have strong beliefs about the world and I act and show up in a way that helps facilitate them happening in the first place. And that is a whole can of worms and can of suffering sometimes all its own. And so back to what we were talking about. What about those people that we believe need to be cut out do we think is true that they think about us that is making us feel the way that we do? Like, what would have to be true to feel as bad as I do with relation to what they're projecting at me or telling me or representing to me? I would think in some way that I believe what they're saying, that they're validating something that I already believe about myself or about the situation or about how things could have or should have gone at the time. And so in that moment, it's not about cutting them out. It's about showing up in the way that you want to show up. But the expectations dissipate because you're not trying to fix something. You're not subconsciously trying to right a wrong or prove yourself to be something that somebody else may be suggesting that you are. Because if they're suggesting something that you're not, then why are you worried about it? Like if somebody comes up to you and says, I hate your purple hair, and you look in the mirror and your hair ain't purple, what do you think? Either that person's got something going on or, okay, right? Not even that you dismiss it. You just don't know what to do with it because there's no context, because you don't know why they're saying you have purple hair when you don't have purple hair. And so if they're saying something that is clearly not true about you, or clearly something that they don't understand or you don't understand that they're saying, then why are you so upset about it, right? In that context of the purple hair, it's easy to let go because it's so obscure. It's so absurd. Right. But when it's loved ones or family or people that we love and appreciate, it's harder to do because we put more weight to their opinions. But at the end of the day, the only opinion that has ever mattered about who you are is yours. That's not saying that you go like a bull in a china shop and just destroy things and hurt people and don't think about anybody else. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. I'm suggesting that if you are the bull in the china shop, them telling you you're a bull in the china shop based on their interpretation has to be accepted by you first before it could be true. And so if you're not being a bull in the china shop, but they're telling you you are, and you evaluate yourself in earnest as to whether you are or not, if you come to a different conclusion to them, either they are inaccurate or you're not ready to see what you are. But you can't hold yourself to account for what other people are saying and doing, especially as it pertains to you, because they can't define you because they can't be you, right? There's one key aspect that they don't have. You. They are not you. They could have known you their entire lives. And in many instances, they might be able to predict what you're going to do. But at the end of the day, they do not define you. And that's not to say that you just avoid people who try to define you. That's to say that it is a collaboration through your experiences in the world to build your identity. We were programmed with one between 0 and 7 years of age. And that has high impacts throughout your life as to how you show up, how you react, how you reflex to different things, and how you reflect on things. And again, I'm not saying that you should go out and be an asshole. What I'm saying is that if people are accusing you of being something that you don't believe that you are, not in a dismissive way and not in a "Ugh, they don't know what they're talking about" kind of way, but in an earnest reflection, then why are you holding that to you, right? Because other people may have things going on that cause them to see things a certain way, or they have programming of their own that impacts the way that they perceive. And maybe they only caught a portion of what you're doing, right? Have you ever had something where you got to the end and then when you got the full story, you're like, oh, that's not what I thought was happening at all? And I've had a lot of those experiences lately. I subconsciously can catastrophize intensely. And then later I find out it was not what I thought it was. And I had a lot of suffering between the start and the finish that I don't know that I needed to have. So, do you need to cut people out of your life? Maybe you do. But what that looks like may be very different person to person to person. For instance, you could have the boundary that I only allow myself to be exposed to X, Y, and Z. And if that gets to that level, that threshold, then I'm out, right? And you're not going to chastise them. You're not going to attack them. You're not going to try to make them hurt or change who they are. But you just know that, that's about all I can take for today. But I'll be back XYZ, right? Keeping yourself good requires having self-awareness about where you're at in the process. Am I feeling good today? Am I feeling depleted, right? Sometimes rest is needed before going into social situations. Sometimes social situations build you up, but the wisdom is to know the difference. And the wisdom comes from experience, and experience isn't a problem. Experience is always informing adaptation and your wisdom. But how you build that and how you do it really depends on your thoughts and feelings and beliefs around that. I'm getting a little sideways, but what I'll bring it back to is you cannot be made to feel inferior without your consent. You cannot be made to feel anything without your consent. And that doesn't mean that you adamantly ignore things. Like I've seen the complete polarization of that in our current president of our United States. He's making up a world about who he is and calling everybody else who doesn't affirm that fake news or worse, like fraudulent news or whatever he says. And that's crazy, right? But that's denial. And you know what? He is going to have to reap the benefits of that denial. And I am not the judge and jury there. And sadly, I may not know ever if he actually realizes it. But based on the things that he's saying, I think he does realize that, because he wouldn't talk about not getting into heaven like he's been doing frequently if he didn't. But I'll stray away from political. To be well and to be free is to remember that you always have been and always will be. And to remember that your boundaries are about maintaining being well and being free, and not controlling outcomes, not controlling other people, and not letting other stories define you unless you know it to be fact or true, at least for now. So, what does your life look like when you remember to be well and to be free, and that you already are well and are free?